Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. As you can see behind me, we had a little bit of freezing rain, some kind of snowy slush that fell early this morning. But right now, I think it's hovering right around freezing, so it's not too cold just yet. But this is one of those days where the temperatures are going to plummet all day long, down into the teens. I think we're looking at like 14 maybe as a low. So I've got some prepping to do because tomorrow is going to be another one of those slick days. As I just came through the gate, I slipped, just about wiped out on the black mat here. You know, it's covered with some of that snowy slush. And this is a prime example of some of the preps that I need to do today to try to help make the farm a little more safe moving forward as it gets colder. You can also see where we have a very active drip falling on our black mats in front of the barn. That's because the snow on the roof is melting in the warm sunshine. You know, this part of the barn faces south, kind of southeast, and so it's going to get a lot of sun. We will have melting up on the roof, but I want to work on tackling these black mats today to try to help them be as safe as possible, because I know as temperatures fall all throughout the day, it's not so bad right now, but it could be really slippery in the morning. So there are a few things I want to do, and I'll tell you about that. But first things first, I need to grab hay for everyone. They're currently eating their handful of grain, and after I get hay, I'll then start working on prepping our spaces. As Snuggles here works to eat her hay, I am going to see if I can't tackle these snowballs that have accumulated on the ends of her tail. It can't be fun having this dragging along behind her. Success. I have just removed the first 2 snowballs from my horse's tails. It's just one of the casualties of having a beautifully long tail that drags the ground. Snuggles also had 2 giant snowballs up on her front hooves. Luckily, she dropped those as she was heading towards the back run-in. I didn't have to get a hoof pick to remove them, but now she's feeling much better. Her feet are flat on the ground, those snowballs are off her tail, and she can eat and walk around in peace now. With these super cold temperatures heading our way with this next, real dip, one thing that we're gonna do today is we're gonna swap out this gray trough with one of those red tubs because our new little red De-Icer has come in. So after everyone's finished eating and I've picked, maybe had a little breakfast, I'll come back down and we will drain the gray trough, we'll fill a new red one, and then we'll get that new De-Icer set up. We'll have to run, I think, another short extension cord, but it should be pretty easy and straightforward. It will be really nice knowing that all of my fields will have, or should have, relatively warm, unfrozen water overnight. So, huge plus. Because it is not too cold just yet, it actually feels fairly nice out here. If I didn't know any better, I would think that today is a normal day and it'll be getting warmer and warmer, but I know that's not the case. But for right now, in the morning hours, it's not bad. The wind is not blowing. And so I'm gonna put one small flake of hay out in the front field for the boys to nibble on. I'm gonna actually keep them locked out there. I'll put a bucket of water. I wanna encourage them to stay out in this little field as much as possible, because I know come this evening, they'll definitely be heading into the barn, and that's probably where they're gonna spend a lot of their time as it gets really cold. But for right now, I'm gonna encourage them to eat out in the field. You can see here, the boys are enjoying that little flake of hay I just put out for them, and then the rest I'll put in the stall for later today. Even my cat Frankie is out here with me this morning, but he is choosing to hang out in the dry stall. Look who's ventured out. What'd you think, Franks? It's kind of wet and gross today. I've just stepped inside to get my broom to sweep away those puddles, and while I was inside, I thought, let me check on how many bales of hay we have fed so far in December. And it looks like I have opened my 7th bale, and it's only the middle of December, which means we're probably on track to feed anywhere from 12 to 14. If the snows keep coming the way they have the first half of the month, we could even be higher than that. So definitely an uptick in the amount of hay we're feeding. And it's just directly correlated to the snow and the really cold temperatures, which isn't a surprise. But again, you just have to factor that in when you start planning how much hay you might need for your horses. So I'm working to sweep not only the puddles, but any clumps of ice or slush, because they might also continue to melt over the next hour or so before the temperatures start to drop, and I don't need to add any more water to the situation. I've just finished sweeping off the black mats and that big puddle that had accumulated. Luckily, if you look at the roof, almost all of that little snow that we had this morning has already melted and dripped down. So I think that if I keep coming out throughout the afternoon and sweeping away the last little bit of drippage, our mats might even have a chance to dry out a little if the sun keeps shining. Even if the wind picks up, there's a chance they might dry a touch, and then I will come back and sprinkle some more old loose hay just to give that extra traction so that it's not too slick in the morning. Another spot I've just swept is that entry mat right here at our little gate. I know that this is oftentimes a slick spot. I slipped on it this morning when it was slushy. So these black mats, although they're really helpful, I know that they are generally the slick spots I have to be really careful of. There's some other areas that can accumulate ice if we get a sizable snow, but when it's just a small light snow or any sort of freezing rain, these mats are the primary slick spots. Right here by my back gate is one of those spots where when we have a significant size snow, it can really compact here and this can become a really slick spot. But right now, with what we have, it should not be bad. So I don't know if you can tell, but the winds are beginning to pick up. I have like a little spider web or something on my hat here that's blowing in the breeze. My hat had gone missing and I found it last night hiding behind our freezer, our deep freeze. So it's not a surprise if it's got some cobwebs on it. But because this cold air is coming in today, I'm not at all surprised that the winds are picking up. I'm gonna need to put my second glove back on, finish picking. And then after that, really all I have left to do for my morning chores with the horses is to get that red De-Icer squared away. And then I think we'll be in good shape and we just have to kind of ride out this cold spell. So let me get back to picking. Throughout the previous 2 snows, this is now our 3rd small snow, really in less than 2 weeks. It's been a funny December. We have been spreading hay though, right here at the back of the hay barn and behind the run-in. And the remnants from that hay have remained on the ground. We never picked them or removed them because it's still been a little frozen back here all week. And because of that, I still have this nice base of hay underneath all of this snow and slush that fell, which means I don't have to spread anymore because as things continue to melt and refreeze back here, that hay is already in place and will provide traction. So what we've already previously done, we get to pay it forward and it saves us a step today, which is great. Just in the little while it took me to pick the back field and run in, you can already see some nice drying is happening on our front mats. I see where the wind is wanting to close my stall door. And although I don't normally do this, I am going to latch it open here so that the wind will not blow it into our dear little lady here. The reason I don't normally bother to latch my door is it's rare that we get the wind blowing in the direction that it would actually close my door. And it also makes feeding so much faster because once lady goes in, I can just swing the door closed. I don't have to come and unlatch it. But when I know we're gonna have wind, and especially if I already see the door beginning to want to swing closed, I just latch it open here with a simple little hook, and that keeps everything open and safe for the horses. So I'm glad we saw the wind beginning to close the door because I hadn't yet thought to do that. It's now that time of day, the time that I have personally kind of been dreading a little. Time to work on our water troughs. We need to empty out the far red tub, which is going to be cold and wet. And then we need to move the red tub to the backfield, kind of drain the gray tub, and then get our new De-Icer set up just like we have here. So let me get started. My hands are gonna get cold. The scooping and removing of the water went pretty well. My hands are not too wet, they're not too cold just yet. But what I need to do now is I need to really scrub out the bottom of this trough because it's been neglected for the last week or so. I've really just been focusing on one trough, keeping it good and clean and topped off. And this one had been icing over since I didn't have a second De-Icer. So now I need to scrub it, and my hands will for sure get cold doing this. I even had to take the jacket off for that. I didn't want my winter coat to get wet up to the elbow, but success. We have scrubbed out our red tub. It's nice and clean, and I'm gonna go and dump that last bucket of really gross water And then it's time just to fill and put our de-icer in. So my phone is falling out of my wet, cold hand. Now on to the next phase. As I work to carry our now clean, empty tub to the back field, I will say one little blessing to dealing with water troughs in the winter is they don't get as dirty as fast. In the summer and the warm months, they just get really grimy a lot faster. So at least I don't have to scrub them as often in the winter. You still have to fill them, obviously, and there's a whole nother issue with that, which I will show you in a little bit. But right now, one tub has been cleaned and one more to go. Young horses just make me laugh. Snuggles has come here to the middle of the field where I am going to dump this little bit of water that's in the trough, give it one final scrub. It's a very sad scrub brush. I don't have much of it left, but I want to scrub the tank just a little bit more before I dump it. When it's wet, it's the best time to get all the funk out of it. But my hands are cold because this water is just bitter, bitter cold. I think Snuggles probably thinks I'm crazy, and some of you might too, but I want to finish scrubbing my tank now. Kind of going at it now while I can see it and while that little bit of algae, Snuggles, is soft. This tank will be that much better for when I go to use it in the spring. So I do want to scrub it one last time before I dump that last gross bit out of the bottom. Now that we have our clean red tub in place and we've removed that older gray trough that we no longer need for the winter, the next step is going to be to fill the red tub before we put our de-icer in, because I want the level to be full and I also don't want to step away from this little red bucket with the de-icer unattended while I get the hose, because you know who might want to play with things. I just hooked the hose up, turned it on. The moment of truth here. Did I or did I not sufficiently walk out and drain the hose last time I used it? Let's hope we have running water down here at the end. Luck is apparently on our side today. So we've got running water, let's fill that tub. As I work to fill our red tub here, I just want to briefly mention the de-icer that I've been using. We bought one last winter for the minis and it worked so well. I said I definitely wanted a second one, the exact same thing. It's made by K&H and I have never used these prior to having minis. I always had the big 100-gallon tanks with my big horses, and we used a very different style de-icer for those. But for my little red tubs, I wanted to make sure that I had a de-icer that, one, wasn't going to melt them, but was going to still keep the water from freezing. Two, I want it to be submerged at the bottom with a cage. And three, I wanted to have a cord protector because my little minis, especially my young guys, I wanted to make sure that they weren't going to chew on it, which is something young horses do. So this has been so wonderful. I highly recommend it, and I can't wait to get my second one up and going because it makes my life so much easier. I am in the process of walking out my hose, but I had to stop and pull my phone out because I now have two minis who are taking their naps in front of the stalls. You know, the mats are dry, the hay there where Lady is nice and relatively warm. It's not quite as gross as other parts of the field. But these little minis love to take their daily naps. I've never really seen two of them side by side though, but Rocky just walked out and just laid right on down. Like I told you, I'm still walking my hose out. You know, you have to like hand over your head to keep it high. I mean, shenanigans, he could be in the stall laying down. These little guys are so funny, and now Rocky, he's gonna sprawl out for you. I mean, he takes a hard nap, this little one. But I don't know. My big horses, yes, they would lay down sometimes in the warm sun, but these little guys, they're always laying down. Now, I say that, like every day I see them taking a nap. They're not constantly laying down. I'm not worried about their feet being sore, but they're really big nappers. But back to the task at hand, walking out my hose. I do this because I need to get all of the water drained out of it. And I don't know if you can see, the end of my hose is back behind me, but as I walk the hose out high, you know, holding it high, all of the water that's in it is kind of snaking out and running out at the end. And that way my hose doesn't freeze solid with a whole chunk of ice, which would impede my ability to get water in the future. So if you have horses or livestock, walking your hose out in the winter after using it is really, really important. But it's not very fun. It is really important to walk your hose out, you know, in the winter months, because if you don't, it will absolutely freeze solid And then if you're needing to fill troughs in a pinch or you need your hose in a hurry, it's not going to be available because it's frozen with ice. I mean, I've known people, and I think we've even done it before, we've had to bring the hose inside the house and like put it in the bathtub or something to defrost it, and that's a real hassle. So although it's not fun to walk your hose out, my arms get tired, my shoulders get tired, it's definitely worth it and a really important thing to do in the winter. We now have our second red tub with our new de-icer in place. It's submerged. It has its little hook here. It's got a cord cover that's protecting the electric cord. It's plugged in, it's filled, it's good to go. So that was a really big thing for us to do today. I am noticing though, as I move around about the farm, it's now maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Over here by my gate, earlier today I thought, oh, this area will be fine. Well, it's actually getting a little slushy and there's some standing water now. And I want to make sure that that doesn't become too slick. And so as nightfall approaches, I want to keep a really close eye because I might need to put some loose hay or even some shavings down because that could become a bit treacherous. So I'll check on that at mealtime. Dinner time usually is like 4:30, which will be a good time because it will give everything a little more time to start to freeze, and I can keep an eye out on those trouble spots. Thank you so much for joining us today as we work to once again prepare our horses and our farm for another cold spell. We've had a really good day, we got a lot done, and the sun is still shining. So although the breezes are picking up and it's getting colder, we're all in pretty good shape. So stay warm, stay dry, stay safe. Check back soon. We'll give you some updates, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.